Since President Biden has been president, the average electricity bill in America, the average, has gone up 27%. Louisiana gasoline, I know every state is different, but Louisiana gasoline under President Biden is up 59%. Eggs are up 79%. Bread, 30%. Coffee, 30%. Milk, 15% under President Biden. Ice cream, 26%. Housing in general is up 19% because of President Biden's inflation. Clothing, 12%. Used cars and trucks, 20%. New cars, 19%. Mortgage rates are up a staggering 160%. Inflation is gutting the American people like a fish.
Today, we're diving into a fiery and eye-opening moment on Capitol Hill. Senator John Kennedy, known for his sharp wit and no-nonsense approach, didn't hold back as he took President Biden's economic policies to task. Inflation has been a top concern for millions of Americans, and Senator Kennedy's passionate critique sheds light on just how deeply it's affecting everyday life. If you've ever wondered how rising costs are gutting families financially, stay tuned. Senator Kennedy painted a grim picture, especially for families in his home state of Louisiana, where the median household income is between $55,000 and $66,000 a year. Imagine earning that and suddenly needing to come up with an extra $900 a month. That's nearly $11,000 a year. It's hard to argue with that imagery when these numbers hit so close to home for so many of us.
For the last 3 years, the American people have been ravaged by inflation. That inflation, like all inflation, is man-made. That man's name is Joe Biden. Since President Biden has been president, the average electricity bill in America, the average, has gone up 27%. Louisiana gasoline, I know every state is different, but Louisiana gasoline under President Biden is up 59%. Eggs are up 79%. Bread, 30%. Coffee, 30%. Milk, 15% under President Biden. Ice cream, 26%. Housing in general is up 19% because of President Biden's inflation. Clothing, 12%. Used cars and trucks, 20%. New cars, 19%. Mortgage rates are up a staggering 160%. If you add it all up under President Biden, inflation the last 3 years has been 20% in Louisiana and 19.2% nationwide. Louisiana is not a wealthy state. The median household income in my state for a family of four is between $55,000 and $60,000 a year. Mom, dad, 2 children. That's not a lot of money when you think about it. A working family, mom and dad both work. They both have to drive to work, so they have car payments. They have a house note. They have to buy food. Sometimes they have to pay tuition for their children. As a result of President Biden's inflation, the average family in Louisiana is paying today an extra $900 a month. That's almost $11,000 a year. Now, I know that each of you makes more than $55,000 or $60,000 a year, but imagine that for a moment that you make $60,000 a year and you're the provider for your family. And all of a sudden, you've got to find an extra $11,000 a year. Wow. You know, you max out your credit cards, you go through your savings, you've spent all your STEMI checks long ago. Inflation is gutting the American people like a fish. It has become a cancer on the American dream. And quite frankly, that's why President Biden is polling right up there with hemorrhoids. I mean, the American people can't sit down and explain to you the difference between disinflation and deflation. The American people, they don't read Aristotle every day. They just get up every day and go to work and obey the law and pay their taxes and try to do the right thing by their children and maybe save a little money for retirement. But they're really being hurt. Now, why? Because President Biden has spent money like it was pond water. It started with the American Rescue Plan, the infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. He has spent trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, money that we had to borrow. Now, unless you were playing Frisbee in the quad during Econ 101, you know, whether you're Milton Friedman or John Maynard Keynes, that when you spend this kind of money, you're going to have inflation. Dr. Jason Furman, who was a chief economic advisor to President Obama, tried to tell President Biden, said, if you do this, you're going to have inflation. Former Harvard President Larry Summers said the same thing. You don't have to be Euclid to figure this out.
Kennedy ended with a clear message. Americans will have their say at the ballot box. His words were a call to action. Vote your conscience. If dead people can vote, you can too. It's a humorous take on a serious issue, but it reminds us all of the power of our voices. This November, every vote counts. And while we may not find relief at the grocery store or the gas pump just yet, Kennedy argued the first step toward lower prices is making your voice heard in the voting booth. Senator Kennedy's remarks are a wake-up call for all of us. Whether you agree with him or not, the reality is clear. Families are struggling, and solutions are urgently needed. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to like this video and hit the subscribe button. Let's keep these conversations going and hold our leaders accountable. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay informed, stay engaged, and take care. See you in